Your second stimulus check is coming, but when is it coming? And will it be delayed because of a lot of pork heating up? And I'm not talking about bacon. Hey everybody, this is LALATE with a second stimulus check and stimulus package update for today with great exciting news about the check, especially if you're on SSDI, SSI, Social Security, railroad benefits, or veterans benefits. Big news today about the check and the second stimulus package. As we know, a second stimulus check is confirmed. All the parties involved have said that there will be a second stimulus check. The White House, the Democrats, and the Republicans have all said that there will be a second stimulus check. Second, we know that there will be a second stimulus check for people on SSDI, SSI, Social Security, or railroad benefits or veterans benefits, because all the programs that are proposed, all the proposals for the second stimulus check, pay it to people who don't particularly make a lot of money. The only viewers that potentially would not get a second stimulus check are one of two. One that makes a great sum of money, or two, which would be a Social Security person that, let's say, owns real estate or has a lot of stocks and bonds, or two, a person who is one of too many dependents on someone else's tax return. The current proposals all say that they will not give a second stimulus check if there's more than 3 dependents on a person's tax return. So you're fine if there's you and 2 others on a tax return as dependents, but if there's 4, you have to be on high alert. All right, so let's get right to the big developments and the changing faces of what's going on. First of all, the amount of the check still remains an issue of debate even today on Monday. The Republicans did not yet debut Mitch Onse, that Republican proposal for the second stimulus check package that is being written by Mitch McConnell and Stevie Mnuchin, that they're going to debut to press in a big roadshow. They have been working on it. They confirmed on Friday. They've been working on it for several weeks, and they're going to did I say litter? They're going to release it to press today or tomorrow, well, in advance of Friday, because members of Congress get back in session later this week. It's a roadshow because they're trying to promote it and talk about it. But I have breaking news about what is also in store for the roadshow, and your head's going to spin as mine did as well. Basically, the check amounts still remain a topic of discussion. Everyone on this channel, everyone that watches this channel, including myself included, all think there should be multiple second stimulus checks. And no one really in their right mind thinks that this is the final check. I want to make that very clear. The proposals include consecutive checks, a check every month, a check in the month of August, and continuing thereafter. 6 months of checks of $2,000 at least, or until the pandemic improves or settles down. That's one of the proposals. The Democrats' actual written proposal in the HEROES Act, which is currently in the Senate from the House, proposes only a one check, currently a $1,200 second stimulus check. Now, I want to make very clear, that's the second stimulus check. The Democrats don't inherently believe that this is your last check, just your second check. Now, I particularly don't like that as well, because you are owed multiple checks. As you recall, the first stimulus package said, we're going to give you multiple checks. The original draft of that package said we're going to give you a check for the month of March, April, and May because we're all on lockdown. But when they went to draft the final version, they said, you know what, we're just going to give you one check, we'll get to it later. They didn't get to it later. What they did get to is scheduling their vacation times. And they scheduled vacation for now, which they're on until later this week. And they scheduled another vacation for August. So what happened was you did not get the checks that you're promised. But the great news is that all the forces say you're going to get a second stimulus check. Now, I want to make something very clear because I've seen it in a lot of the comments, so please stay with me on this one. I've seen a lot of people say, I didn't get a first check, so I'm not getting a second check. Or I don't know, or is my second check going to come with my first check? I've seen that new comment a lot. Let me answer that question. The second stimulus check is not sort of coming as part of like a revolving door of things that are past due. So that's unfortunate news. So if you did not receive your first stimulus check, the fact that there's a second stimulus check does not mean it's coming with past due checks that you haven't received. So if you're due a first stimulus check, please do what you need to do to ensure that you get it, whether it's going to the IRS website or whatnot. But when you get the second stimulus check, it's not going to come with a past due check of the first one, which you may be missing. Second, I need you to understand that a lot of you either qualified for a first stimulus check and didn't do something. Second, did not qualify for a first stimulus check, but will qualify for a second stimulus check. Or three, the IRS doesn't know where you are. And this is a really big concern. So first of all, the big difference, and this is great news, the big difference with a second stimulus check is that a lot of you who may not have been eligible for the first stimulus check are getting it. The big change is dependence. What's a dependent? It means someone who appears on someone else's tax return as a dependent. The first stimulus package said we're not going to pay dependents. It's a horrible rule. I didn't like it, but they passed it. And it was not going to pay adult dependents. So anyone, I can't remember the cutoff age, I think it was like 17 or 18. Anyone 17 or 18 or older who is a dependent on someone else's tax return was not eligible for a first stimulus check. So I had people in the comments to yesterday's video saying, where is my son's check? He's 18. He didn't get a first stimulus check. He's not eligible for a first stimulus check. He is eligible for a second stimulus check. I have people who are 75 or 65 that said, I'm a dependent. I didn't get my first stimulus check. You're not eligible for a first stimulus check. But the good news is you are for the second stimulus check. Next, I have people who say, I didn't file tax returns. I'm not a dependent, and I just went on SSDI or SSI or Social Security or railroad benefits this year. Where's my first stimulus check? You had to do something. You had to do something. You had to file a non-filer. So what I'm here to do is help you to ensure you that you get your second stimulus check. But the important thing to remember is that the second stimulus check is not coming with a past due first stimulus check together in the mail or together in a direct deposit. It's just not. So if you need that first stimulus check, you need to do what you need to do to get it. But here is the great news is that you're eligible for a second stimulus check. I'm going to guide you through it to ensure that you get the check. We know when you're going to get the check. This is also great news. The likely passage date is around August 7th, 8th, or 9th, because that's the last day that members of Congress are in session. Nancy Pelosi, who's head of the House, has said she's going to keep everyone in session at the House until the bill is passed. And what I want you to understand is, on a very windy day, hopefully I don't blow away like Dorothy in The Wizard of Oz, what I want you to understand is that the check, the money, your money, is part of a package. I didn't write this stuff. I'm not in Congress. I don't like that the check is part of other stuff. The check should have been his own bill. If everyone agrees upon the check, why don't you just issue the check? Why don't you just get the check done as its own bill? It seems so logical. But it's not the way Congress works. They're working illogically. And so what I have here for you today is what's happening to the package. The package is this big box that has all this stuff in it. Hazard pay, unemployment benefits, the check, rent assistance, great rent, all the stuff that I'm talking about in the videos every day. And then everything I'm not talking about in the videos. And guess what's happening today? A lot of stuff that I'm not talking about that I really don't want to talk about, but apparently is now happening. And as you know, I give you the good and the bad, and this is the bad. It has nothing to do with your check, but ultimately it delays the discussion of your check. So understand that your check is not in jeopardy today, but there is something that's impacting the delivery of your check. It's called lobbyists. Boy, and they are in full swing. A new report today says that airlines, hotels, and restaurants military contractors, even banks are trying with their strongest lobbyists to get a lot of stuff into not the check, but the second stimulus package, and are lobbying everyone in Congress to get their help into the second stimulus package. Now, ultimately, this doesn't impact you per se, because your check is already, because everyone has said you're getting a check. But it does impact the delivery of the check, because, if we have a check where everyone agrees upon, that's fine. But the problem is that your check is in a box, a package with all this other stuff. And guess what? Hotels want to throw something in the box, and restaurants want to throw something in the box, and banks want to throw something in the box. Everyone wants some help, and they're wanting help, whether they're entitled to it or not, is slowing down the process of you getting potentially the check. Now, ultimately, I do believe that the check and the package will all be approved on around August 9th or August 8th, but it starts to get a little bit extenuated when we start to hear all these people asking for things. As the pandemic rages on, there is a lot of lobbyists pushing. With the extraordinarily unsuccessful disease management, the economy is a grave risk, says a Republican lobbyist whose firm represents corporate clients like 3M to United Airlines. Now, why am I mentioning United Airlines to 3M? Well, guess what? United Airlines got a lot of stuff in the first stimulus package. It makes more likely that the White House will tell Republicans to cut a big dollar deal. Now, why is this so important? It's important because when we talk about a second stimulus package, you have Mitch McConnell saying, I'll agree to a $1 trillion package. Not check, but the package. The Democrats want a $3 trillion package. And the White House so far wants about a $2 trillion or $1.5 trillion package. The problem with this discussion about the package is that suddenly you have lobbyists like Mr. Melman, who's a lobbyist for United Airlines, coming to the table and say, hey, what are you going to give United Airlines? What are you going to give 3M? What are you going to give all my corporate clients that I am a lobbyist for? And so what's happening is that Republicans and Democrats, they're both guilty, both sides of the table are guilty, are suddenly starting to stuff the package with stuff that their lobbyists want. And that is really disconcerting and not a really service of justice to you, the viewer, because ultimately you're going to get the check, but the whole process is just getting muddy by a lot of corporate greed. Senator Mitch McConnell says that he's focused on kids, jobs, and health care. Okay. Chuck Schumer says that Republicans are shilling for special interest. I think Democrats are doing it as well. Both parties are really trying to tailor this second stimulus package to include a lot of stuff for special interest. And you know how politics work. I mean, a lot of these politicians are elected by these special interests, whether it's, airlines or auto manufacturers. And so they're wanting to stuff the bill, the second stimulus package, with stuff for those people. Jack Howard, who's one of the top lobbyists in the country, says, I'm scrambling to make sure I'm not the third monkey heading into Noah's Ark. You got to hustle as hell before the floodgate hits. He's saying, he's fully admitting in this article just published minutes ago, he's hustling like hell to get, as a lobbyist, a lot of stuff for his corporate clients into the second stimulus package. So here you and I are sitting. We're worried about the check. We're worried about your check, about your ability to make rent, about your ability to survive. And then you have these corporate lobbyists who, make fortunes. They absolutely make fortunes. They're just scrambling and knocking on doors in Congress saying, hey, you're doing that second stimulus package next week? Well, make sure you include something for my corporate client who will, pad your reelection campaign fund very nicely. Yeah, it's that sort of concern. So hotels hardly hit are among the industries really lobbying. So hotels are lobbying to ensure that part of that $1 trillion, $2 trillion, $3 trillion is their money. And you're sitting back saying, LALATE, this is not fair. We need money. And I agree. I mean, why are these companies were given money in the first stimulus package? The airlines got trillions in the first, well, millions in the first stimulus package. The hotels got it as well. Quote, if you're interested in supporting the legislative effort, we recommend you work with your union leaders to ensure your voice is heard, says one of the airline presidents. It's a weird dynamic, no question about it. Giant military contractors are getting involved and lobbying as well. I mean, you heard my video about yesterday. Someone wants to put a new building in for the Pentagon into a second stimulus package. I mean, really? Why is a building? What does a building have anything to do with you and the citizens of this country surviving? For, to put food on their table. You don't need a new building this month, folks. You can wait for your building next year. We need to deal with people now. Broadway actors apparently are lobbying as well. Broadway wants, musicals and theater. Apparently, they want stimulus for Broadway shows. I mean, boy. The amount of artists who are forcing to leave the industry, they're lobbying to get stimulus packages for themselves as well. Everyone is coming to the table with a hand open. And some of these corporate clients really don't need a hand. They had PPP, they had EIDL, they had money in the first stimulus package. What did you get? Some of you got nothing. Guiding tactics to build coalitions are also playing out. A Republican former Capitol Hill internal lobbyist who has dozens of clients from Boeing to Disney, he's working the doors as well. Ultimately, the important thing for you to remember is this. The second stimulus package is a package. In it is a check. Your check is not in jeopardy, but the whole process is getting very muddied. I don't want to say your check is in jeopardy, which is not. I don't want to say that the approval date of your check is in jeopardy, which is not. But I want to tell you that the entire process is becoming an involved process that it really should not. My job is to give you the truth and whether or not it's hard to swallow. And this one is hard to swallow. I mean, these people should not be with their hands out. They're big business. The second stimulus check is owed to you, and it ultimately will come to you. One of the other questions I got yesterday a lot from people on second stimulus on benefits was, is my check taxable? No. A veteran asked me, will the VA send me my second stimulus check? No. Will receiving the stimulus check impact my ability to stay on benefits? No. So I want you to understand that the second stimulus check does not come from the people who send you your benefits generally. It's sent by a universal body that sends second stimulus checks to everyone. Finally, a lot of people continually ask me about Mitch and his caps. I mean, we still have not seen Mitch Hanse and his caps. And I don't mean baseball caps, I mean 2019 income caps. He suggests he doesn't want to give you a stimulus check if you made more than $40,000 individually last year. I mean, we will see it when we see the package. When we see the package unveiled from Mitch McConnell and Stephen Mnuchin. And what else is in that package? Maybe a new hotel for some hotel company, maybe a new Broadway theater for some Broadway people. I don't know. But ultimately, my focus is for you, the viewer, and your second stimulus check. I want you to stay focused, stay motivated, stay smiling, and as always, stay with LALATE for more.